Assalamu alaikum. Um, this is Luton Revert Group. We're doing a podcast all about Ramadan, looking at own experiences and sharing some tips and ideas as to how this can be the blessed month that it is meant for us. So I'm Catherine. I'm with Luton Revert Group and I've been Muslim for 40 years. I'd like to introduce my co-presenters, Jeanette.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm Jeanette, also part of the Luton Revert group, and I've been a Muslim over 30 years.
Thank you. Kerry.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I'm Luton girl, born and bred, and I accepted Islam about 20 years ago, give or take.
MashaAllah. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about initially just sort of what Ramadan is, what its purpose is for us, and the things that we need to be doing and thinking about during Ramadan, and then we'll go into various aspects of that, and how we've managed that in our experience over the years, and what tips and ideas we have to share with others. Kerry, would you like to give a brief overview of
Sure.
what Ramadan is and what we're required to do?
Yeah, so I'm going to take it right back to basics, because those that accept the faith, will be coming, when they first take Shahada, some will have very little knowledge, and perhaps this might be their first Ramadan. And so, people will have talked about Ramadan with it being a pillar of the faith, but might not know some of the details. So I'm just going to take it right back to basics. So you kind of can think of Ramadan, which actually is the Islamic name of the calendar month. And it's a month-long period of a kind of a spiritual reset. The idea being, as we're told by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to gain taqwa, which is awareness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we should be looking to, over this month, get better at self-discipline, increasing our kindness, patience, gratitude, and repentance. And we are required to fast from dawn to sunset. This means no food or drink, no smoking, no sexual relations, and avoiding bad speech, getting angry, and gossip. There are two key meals, because when you fast, we all are always thinking about the food, and they are suhoor, which is the pre-dawn meal, and iftar, which is the meal that we have to break the fast at sunset. During this time, there is an extra prayer called Taraweeh, which I think we're going to talk about a little bit more later on, which is optional. It's not compulsory and doesn't have to be at the mosque. And also, just to add that Ramadan is the month that Quran was revealed. Not everyone is required to fast. So if you're ill, if you're pregnant and breastfeeding, if you're traveling, or if ladies' menstrual period are not required to fast, but they are required to make it up later. So should we talk a little bit more about actually preparing for the month?
Yes, so there's several aspects to this, aren't there? There's the practical things, things like cooking, shopping, and then there's the more spiritual things, preparing ourselves in terms of what we're going to learn or read or study or think about, and also the spiritual side, and the physical side, preparing our bodies, how we can make that a smooth transition into Ramadan. So I don't know who wants to cover one of those topics first.
Jeanette?
If I could, Jeanette?
Yeah, I'm still here. Now, I was just thinking, preparing for Ramadan. A lot of people, I am putting myself first as well. You're thinking about the food and drink and how are you going to survive all that time without any food or drink, especially water. Well, I think part of the prep is before Ramadan starts. You make sure your water intake is increased. and you cut out things like caffeine, because there's nothing worse than having like caffeine withdrawals when you just don't have it. So I'd say make sure you increase your water intake before the beginning. And I would say also, if you can, avoid caffeine. If you're desperate to have your coffee or your tea or whatever in the morning, maybe just have the 1 cup and then switch to something either herbal or decaf. I say that's the first thing for me when I'm thinking about
Yeah,
drinks.
definitely. Yeah, that's such an important one. And I think this one catches out so many people, right? I mean, we've all had the headaches, haven't we? From the
Yeah.
dehydration and from the caffeine withdrawal, I think. It just, that can catch you out. And the thing is that can make you, that can make you quite miserable while you're fasting. And you don't want to be in a position where you can't function properly while you're fasting. So just a little bit of preparation makes all the difference.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So if we move on to sort of practical tips in terms of food and preparation and things like because it can be quite tiring, particularly if you might have be feeding larger numbers of people during Ramadan. People are coming to iftar to see you, so it's planning ahead really. Maybe if you can do batch cooking, because you don't want to tire yourself out cooking, and also the suhoor meal. Sometimes there's an expectation or tradition that can be quite a big meal and quite a lot of cooking involved. So if you can prepare and plan ahead as much as possible, that's really good, because it can be for some people quite a tiring time being in the kitchen a lot, even though it's a time when we're supposed to be not needing food, not thinking about food. It's challenging then if you're spending several hours a day in preparing food. So
Yeah,
it's
there's a
just
couple of
something to
ways
look
to
at.
look at it, isn't there? You can think of
Yeah.
it as the reward that you'll get for the intention to feed a fasting person, and look after your family. So there is the benefit still, of being, the one who prepares the iftar meals, but there is sometimes a tendency for a bit kind of expectations to grow over this month, because the anticipation from fasting all day, when they break fast, they want to have something really tasty and substantial. And it can especially if you're a busy mom, you've got children, you're probably still having to do school runs and all these kind of things, still having to get up early, those of us who work still having to work. But there are, so you can always talk to, for example, with the work thing, you can always talk to your employer and just ask for a little bit of dispensation perhaps over the month, if you're able to perhaps finish a little bit earlier. So because this year, alhamdulillah, we will be finishing a little bit earlier, not like when we're fasting in the summer months and it can go as long as 9 p.m. The expectation this year, I think, is around 5:30, isn't it? That we'll be
I think
breaking fast.
yes, yeah.
So, but it still means that if you're working at a kind of 9 to 5, you've got to rush home and then prepare your iftar. But yeah, I mean, planning ahead, I've started to see, for example, on social media, lots of kind of people putting about planning for Ramadan and prepping meals ahead of time, prepping their samosas and prepping whatever other food they like to have at that time. Um, I think the things like overnight oats that you can do after you've broken your fast, but for your sahur meal is quite a good idea. And of course, oats are a really practical, good food for sahur, because they take longer to digest, so they
Yeah.
keep you fuller for longer. So that's a really good one.
Yeah. So we've covered preparing ourselves physically. We've covered cooking and preparation. What about children? How do we manage, look after, support children in the family, for them to be understanding and maybe participating in Ramadan in some way?
Those
What
little books you get that you can get with the date tins are really good. You know, the little like Ramadan books, colouring books and activity books that they do for kids now.
Yeah,
they're really nice.
There is, and there's also the little calendars that you can get as well. Not necessarily chocolate ones, but you can maybe make your own little pockets, put little doors or stickers in them, things to get them all excited about, when it comes to breaking fast, and then they get to see what treat they've got in their calendar. I think the little things like that help with the younger ones for sure. And also encouraging them to do a little bit of their own mini fasts, as I used to say. Like they'd have the breakfast and they'd still have the lunch and they'd still have the tea. Well, probably they usually have that with us. But it's a case of in between, they don't have any snacks. They don't have any sweets. Things like this.
Yeah.
So they're still getting the idea of giving up something that you really like for the sake of Allah and helping with their worship.
Yeah.
That's the practical side with food. But then the other side is spending some time in the day together where maybe you pray together or you teach them a line of the Quran or a surah or even just words, maybe Allah's names. Little activities like that, as well as like Kerry said, the activity books and things. There's so much out there now for the younger children.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. There wasn't much when I became Muslim 40 years ago. I didn't find anything really. We're blessed to have so much information out. I mean, I didn't really know anything about Taraweeh until after many years of being Muslim, really. So we have so much information there. It's really helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
you're right
also
with Taraweeh.
Yeah.
So I was just going to say with Taraweeh, I didn't know really what it was until a lot later. And I always thought it was just for the men to go and do in the mosque. I didn't realize it was for everybody, and that's something that we need to get out there. That actually.
Yeah, you could do it at home as well, which I didn't know.
Yeah. Which
So
is a good point,
talk
really.
a little bit about Taraweeh in case people haven't heard of it.
Oh, yeah.
So this is an additional prayer that's during Ramadan. It's held in the mosque, and many people go. And it's during this time the whole of the Quran is read. And so there's about between the minimum number of rakats that are done during the Taraweeh prayers, I think is 8, but it can go up to 20. So you need to be, if you're going to go, you need to be well hydrated and take a bottle of water with you, because it can be challenging. But it's very good.
It can get very stuffy, can't it, sometimes in the mosque?
Yeah.
There's a number of bodies in there, everybody wants to, take part. So it can be, if you're not used to it, it can be a little bit overwhelming and actually physically challenging. I know when I've done Taraweeh before, after a full day of fasting, and then you eat, and then you kind of rush out straight to do your Taraweeh prayer.
Yes.
More or less. I don't know, I always find that sometimes I can be a little bit faint. I don't know if it's something to do with maybe the blood rushing to my tummy to digest my food. I'm not sure, but I know I've struggled sometimes with Taraweeh, especially when they do the long surahs and you're kind of standing and it's warm and lots of bodies in the room. I have struggled with that in the past.
But it is.
I just want to. So I was just going to point out that although it's 8 and 20, they're done in twos.
Yes.
So you do 2 rakats and you say salam, then you have a short break, whereas that's where you have a quick drink, and then you do the next two, and you follow along. And each night there's one section. So the Quran is split up into juz, 30 juz. So there's one done every night.
Yeah.
And it can be hard. It can be long. If you are trying to do the 8, they're very long. But if you do the 20, they're not as long, but they're still physically demanding because you've got 20 rakats.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely it. Talking about preparing as well, you mentioned like overnight oats for your breakfast. So, the other thing is don't have lots of food because
No.
there's two things. If you have too much in the morning, you don't really rest afterwards. Your body's got to work through it. But if you have too much at iftar time as well, and it comes to do prayers, it's really hard. So it's about getting that balance. Get the right foods, the healthy foods, the slow burning food in the morning, like Kerry's already mentioned, porridge, dates, milk. All these things are good to have in the morning. I know, in my husband's family, they have like parathas, which is like chapatis with butter. They have a curry. They'll have almost the same meal in the morning as they have in the evening. So it's just got to get that balance right. Otherwise, that can also have real effects on you. And actually, you won't want to do as much of the spiritual stuff because your body will be physically not coping.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
I was in Turkey once during Ramadan, and it was all this sort of the meals we were provided. It was just enough so you were no longer hungry, and that's it. And that was I was there for a week or 10 days, and it was so you just enough. And of course, drinking, but it was just a small meal, it was a small dessert, bit of rice pudding or something, and that was it. Whereas here, I'd be sort of okay. Yeah, you don't need that. There's so much drinks as well. You can't.
Yeah,
Can't
especially when you get these kind of like, people do, iftars together, family iftars, and people are going around to visit each other for iftar. It can get a bit much, like the expectation to, serve a banquet because everyone's so hungry. But yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking, I'm just reading reference here in the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, eat and drink, but be not excessive. Indeed, he likes not those who commit excess. And that's from Surah Araf 31. And also just like the fact that it's highly, highly recommended to have suhoor, which is the meal taken the pre-dawn. So our Prophet said, take the suhoor meal, for there is blessing in it. And that's from Bukhari and Muslim. So really, even if it's just a date, I know some people who want to eat actually at suhoor, or certainly you don't want to eat anything heavy. But even if you just have a date, and dates are a bit miraculous, aren't they, in terms of the energy that they provide. And even now, I think they've started talking about new mothers and dates, right? Because it gives that quick burst of energy. So even if you have just a date, or if dates aren't your preference, something small, then there's still blessing in that. So at least have something if because it can be sometimes when you're getting up that early and the lights are dazzling and you're like, oh,
because I've
still
experienced missing Suha, but then it is a tougher day because you're empty for a longer period of time. And that is, I found it quite difficult when, for whatever reason, I missed Suha.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
I think having that drink is so important. I mean, I know in the past when everybody's like, oh, we don't want to get up, we're not doing this, but I've gone to them and given them a bottle, a glass of water, at least a glass of water and a date. It just helps to have something. It doesn't have to be big.
Yeah,
definitely.
Okay.
So should we talk about some of the kind of things around the spiritual things like giving in charity, some of the du'as that we can do at the time of Ramadan. And of course, I think as well, we should mention in these last 5 minutes, Laylatul Qadr, which we seek within the last 10 days of Ramadan.
Yeah, yeah. So yes, giving to charity.
That's why during Ramadan, there's so many more charity events happening because there's so many blessings. But yeah, so definitely. And you know what? Giving to charity isn't just about money. It's about that smile. When you smile at somebody, that can be their whole day, make their day. So it's not just about emptying your pockets.
No.
Doing things in the community as well, there's so many great, here in Luton, we're so blessed and we have such an amazing community, and there's always things going on. I'm just like thinking about, for example, Discover Islam. I think they run a soup kitchen. There's lots of other kind of, food bank and things like that. There's lots of opportunities to kind of get involved and help the local community. So, charity, like you said, doesn't have to be that you're giving out of your pocket always. It can be giving of your time as well.
Absolutely.
Volunteering, take the time to volunteer for the things that are happening in your local community, because there's just so much reward in that, inshallah.
Just remind me what else you said on the list, Kerry.
So the other things were I think we've pretty much covered everything, other than now just to talk maybe a little bit about Laylatul Qadr.
Oh yes.
So one of the odd nights in the last 10 days.
Yes. So basically, this is what they call the night of power, and we seek it in the last 10 days of the month Ramadan. And the reason it's the Laylatul Qadr is a reward where the worship in this night is better than 1,000 months. That's from Surah 97. So basically, 1,000 months equates to roughly a lifetime. So you just have to make a little bit of extra effort in those last 10 nights to try and find that special night. And there's lots of kind of pointers as to when in those last 10 nights Laylatul Qadr might be. There's kind of like indicators about, it might be the 27th, or it'll be an odd night, and that there's certain signs that you can look for. But essentially, the idea is that in those last 10 days, we really make a little bit of an extra push. Some people like to, for example, automate their charity in the last 10 nights, so that they get maximum input. And lots of repentance. A really good one, obviously, is repeating the like Surah Ikhlas, because Surah Ikhlas already has the reward of repeating a third of the reciting the third of the Quran. So that's got a lot of value. So if you repeat that lots in the last 10 nights is a good one.
It's always, they say it's on an odd night. We don't know exactly when it is, so you just try your best and do as much as you can on the odd nights, and hoping that you capture it to get that reward.
And just maybe a final thing to remember is that the start date of Ramadan, there may be differences when different mosques or groups are starting Ramadan, depending on lots of things, whether they're following the local moon sighting or whether they're following the sighting of the moon in another country. But I would recommend people don't get sort of disturbed or agitated about this. Follow what mosque you go to, what they're doing, and don't get into discussions or arguments with people as to whether it's going to be today or tomorrow, because that will also knock on about when the odd nights at the last 10 are. Because so some people, those might be even, just don't worry about that. Just go with your intention and what your community is doing. But inshallah, one day there might be a time when everybody in the community in one locality will be following the same. We'll see. we'll see.
Inshallah. Yeah, no, that's a really good point, I think, to finish on, Catherine, is that, you know, not to worry, take things easy. If in doubt, you know, follow the mosque that you go to. They'll be able to as well give you timings for the breaking of fast and the prayers. They usually come out with a special calendar for Ramadan, so make sure you get hold of those. And of course, you can always reach out to Luton Revert Group if you've got any questions. We're on social media. You can find us on Facebook, and you can find us on Instagram, and we also have an email, lutonrevertgroup@gmail.com.
Please do get in touch. Okay.
Yeah, please do. And we're open to having new people come and join us. You'll be very welcome. So yeah, inshallah. So thank you for listening. We hope this has been beneficial to you. And have a good Ramadan, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.